How should the county measure the quality of its public safety? What are reasonable expectations in terms of those measurements over the next 4 years?
Well, we're human beings and life is volatile. There's going to be mistakes that happen. Things are going to happen. But we can be vigilant. And I'm going to bring up the needle exchange in this context. The needle exchange is an absurdity in my opinion. There's no reason that government, no purpose that government has passing out needles to addicts without a drug program registration at the end. If you can't afford it, you don't do it, in my opinion. It's an enabling of bad behavior. I think that's just the path that we're changing now. Keep Santa Cruz weird is no longer the slogan du jour around here, all right? Public safety is a top priority. If you don't have public safety, you don't have anything. As I mentioned before, the fact that it takes 30 to 45 minutes for an officer to get to Bonnie Doon, these are some very nice houses up there in Bonnie Doon, by the way. Be that as it may, but the fact that it takes that long to get up there, by the time anything is going to happen, it's happened, it's over with. Murder or whatever, a robbery. So this is where I think leadership comes in. We talk about taxes in the proper way, which is if you really want public safety, it means more officers, okay? And it means funding law enforcement. And I think it also means volunteerism on the rise. Part of the baby boomers' responsibility is to look back and recognize the good life that they've had and take the balance of the time that they have towards volunteering and contributing to the society that's been so good at that. I think we're seeing this on the rise. One of the problems that we have with homelessness, I have a page on my website once again. I hope you look at my website, boblamanica.com. I divide homelessness into threes. One part is they're homeless by choice, one part is they're mentally ill, and one part is they don't have a safety net to fall back on. The mentally ill ones, it's kind of a scandal that we have people on the street that are mentally ill. I realize this is not a Santa Cruz problem per se, but it's a problem that we can focus on, do some volunteer effort on. It's part of the public safety problem. Thank you much.
Thank you. Terry?
Well, I am certainly the only candidate here with law enforcement experience. The question, though, focuses on the measurement. How would we measure public safety? And the easiest answer to that is the reduction of crime. There is a standard, what they call the Uniform Crime Reporting System across the United States that standardizes crime by population. And for the 20 years that I was the police chief, we reduced crime in the city of Watsonville by 25%. It's not easy to do when you run into years that on the chart go up and down and up and down. But we have been fighting this issue for a long time in South County, where everybody thinks that there's a gunfight on every corner and every brown kid is a gangbanger. And people in Santa Cruz didn't want to come to Watsonville because they thought it was too dangerous. And for all those years, we had a lower crime rate per capita than the city of Santa Cruz. But let me just say this. There has to be a balance of prevention, suppression, and treatment. I was on the very beginning of the Criminal Justice Council in this county that has all of the stakeholders in the justice system at the table. I started the first gang intervention team to identify young people at an early age and try to move them away from gangs. I was the first person, along with Linda Perez, to create the Pajaro Valley, what is that?
Prevention and Student Assistance.
Thank you. He was on the board with me.
I was the president.
And,
what was that name?
Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance. It is part of the school system to help younger people when they are identified with problems and use the medical model of case management with the families and in some cases the grandparents who are raising kids. But here's the other piece that's a big threat to us right now, and it's AB 109. It's this whole prisoner transfer from the state to the local governments. 40,000 people coming out across the state of California. There's quite a number here, but that's just part of the threat. The other part is local judges now cannot send people to prison, they send them to the county jail. So we're putting the problem in the county, and we don't have enough money from the state to deal with it. I created the first gang enforcement unit, and I gave them the equipment that it takes to knock gang crime, organized gang crime, out of the box. And right now, we are lacking that, and we've got to get that back into the county budget. The measure, though, is the reduction of crime in our communities. That's the ballgame.
Thank you, Terry.
Actually, I always accuse him of reading my notes when I do these. The biggest part I do, I'm very proud of what the Watsonville Police Department has done, what Terry has done as chief, and even our current chief has done a very good job of continuing that kind of work. And I'm always, as Terry is, amazed that people have this vision of Watsonville from the outside, but when you compare us to some of the other cities in the county, we're actually better off. What has worked so well for the Pajaro Valley is that there has been, for decades, interagency relationships that have flourished. The city and the recreation department, the police department, the sheriff's department, the schools, youth organizations have all come to the table to say, what can we do to affect what's happening with kids in our community? And that's probably the biggest single thing that we can do to reduce crime. And it is still going on. As Terry mentioned, and I believe, and I agree, intervention and prevention is the most important things we can do. When we can turn a child away from doing a path that will go the wrong way, that's where we have the best effective use of our tax dollars. And that's where we can actually create great kids who do well in school and improve everything about our community. Terry brought up PVPSA, Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance. It was interesting because when I was first elected to the Pajaro Valley School Board, I ran on creating this agency. I actually ended up it's actually a nonprofit that directly affects the school district. It's a corporation, it's actually a dedicated nonprofit, and its whole cause for being is to affect the kids in the Pajaro Valley School District. But because we structured it that way, it opened up a whole new area of grant working and a whole new avenue for people to come together to make things happen and to work across agency lines that normally didn't happen. It worked so well and we got along so well that I actually ended up being the president of that corporation. I was the founding president and I held that position for 15 years. Terry worked with me on that and really, I think they did a great job and it continues. And North County is now trying to emulate what we did in Watsonville because of the good things we have done. The measure is how many kids we keep out of crime, how many kids we aim down the right path. And it's not just a matter of people getting involved in gangs, but people who are very bright, who are bored with school and act out in the schools. How are we addressing them? Do we have alternatives for them? And also people who are having family issues when you're going through divorces, or parents or relatives who are gang members. Those are all bad influences that we should intervene on. And it's been very successful. And hopefully, working with the county, we can bring that kind of an attitude of working with the city of Watsonville, working with the sheriff's department, working with other mental health and other agencies to make this all happen.
So one of the primary reasons I'm running for the County Board of Supervisors is public safety. For 8 years I worked on it within the context of the city of Santa Cruz. We were able to reduce crime, but the crime rate is way too high and the severity of the crime is way too serious. And we need to work in a regional level. Crime and criminals don't stop at city borders or jurisdictional lines. We need a regional approach. How we measure that is in 2 ways for public safety. One is the crime rate. 2 is the response time for CAL FIRE. One of the things the Board of Supervisors has to worry about is we run the rural fire response. Those are under threat constantly of having stations shut. That puts people's lives in danger in our rural areas because the response time will go up dramatically. So we need strong advocates to work at the state and local level to retain basic fire service. In terms of crime, the strategy has to be collaborative. Right now, we spend a lot of resources on having police on the street, arresting people, putting people in jail, taking people to Dominican, providing them with social services, all these, the array of services, but we aren't getting the outcomes we want. Everyone within those silos is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but we haven't set clear goals and outcomes for how we get the kind of safe community that we want and we deserve. Some of the examples of how we can build these collaborations, and we've already done this, is we did the chronic inebriate program. Because we have a sane few people who are sucking up a tremendous amount of resources and forcing our law enforcement to be reactive rather than proactive. If we can deal with these folks, so the chronic inebriate program says, look, if you've been arrested a certain number of times over the course of a month, then you can either get treatment or you can go to jail. And every time you get rearrested, the time in treatment doubles or the time in jail doubles. And the idea is we have to stop at the revolving door for chronic inebriates. We put mental health outreach workers out in order to make sure that the folks, right before they go off their meds and cause a lot of problems, that they recognize those people, they have relationships with people, and they're able to get them back on their medicine, to get them the services they need to save us money in the long run. Right now, we're working with the DA on a downtown accountability program where we identified 100 of the most difficult people, the repeat offenders downtown, and we're working with the jails and the courts and treatment, and we're actually getting some great results on the early offenders we're working with that benefit not only the community, but also those offenders as well. We've invested in the youth programs. It's going to take a multi-pronged approach. There's no single answer to solve our crime problems, but I have good relationships across this county with law enforcement officials, with the district attorney, with with the city council members, North County, South County, and if we can get us all in the room, set clear metrics and hold people accountable, we can get the kind of safe community we deserve.